Hey everyone. Since we are less than 24 hours from the 2026 snowpocalypse here in the mid-Atlantic states, south central Pennsylvania, and since it is 17 degrees outside and I'm just not feeling around in me today, not at 17 degrees. Um, I figured that I would do my in the bag for the year. Now, this is going to be a little different in that my bag is going to change radically over the next couple of weeks to maybe 2 months. Um, and it's really going to depend on the tournament that I'm playing, the next tournament that I'm playing, or whatever. But my number of mid ranges is going to go up, my number of drivers is going to go down drastically, um, simply because at the moment I don't get those discs up to speed. So I'm thinking at this point I'm going to back down, um, and throw probably an 11 speed as my fastest disc, um, and that will only come out of the bag when I have a wide open field and you know I can just close my eyes and crank as hard as I can. Um, so anyway, that this in the bag is for the beginning of the year, and this is where my bag stands now. So I have one putter, one. It is a, get the angle right, get it close. There we go. It at one point was a BT Soft Swan, West Side Swan. I'm not sure if, given the fact that it has seen almost all the years that I have been playing this sport, um, I'm not sure whether it still could be considered just a BT Soft or if I should just call it a taco. Um, anyway, um, now it's out of shape. This disc is primarily not for putting. No, no. This disc is primarily for approaches that need to land soft. Um, it turns a lot, even at slow speed. I have to be very, very careful with it, very gentle with it, or it'll just turn radically. So it's a very situational disc. I'll only pull it out if I've got a short approach on maybe a sloped green or something where I need to land very, very gently. Um, this will land gently given the fact that it has no structure anymore. Um, but I can't put any power behind it. It's an approach disc only, and only for certain situations. My putter is it's a BT something. Probably a BT hard. No, it's an Origio. It's an Origio warship. Um, I am one of the original warship evangelists. I have a ton of these. I collected them for a while, which is why I have a ton of them. Um, but I started putting probably 5 or 6 years ago. I started putting with mid ranges because I was struggling with my putter release. So the mid ranges seemed to give me longer range on my putts and cleaner release. And I just got used to them. So that's what I use now. Um, so this is my putter. If I throw it hard, it will turn. Not it's not useful as a any kind of distance disc, but as a putter, it's perfect. Um, Now let's pull these. I have 4 here. Um, these are my backhand mid ranges. Turn them around. I guess that's the better way to do it. Um, they range from extremely understable to straight, straight, pin straight, laser straight. The first one is a Tersus. Get it turned around here. Man, I have a hard time with these camera angles. Um, it is a Tersus, a West Side Tersus. Most of my discs are West Side. Might be all of them at this point. This is an extremely understable mid-range. It will not come back. If I throw it flat and at speed, it will simply turn to the right and keep turning to the right and maybe eventually come out of the turn and land flat, but most of the time it's still turning when it hits the ground. The next one is get the glare off, a West Side Warship. Another West Side Warship. This one does turn in the air when I throw it. It will pan out. Rarely will it ever come back, but it gives me an amount of turn between the Tersus and my next warship, which is a Chris Villa John warship. And this one I put in the bag last year as my go perfectly straight mid-range. It doesn't go perfectly straight anymore. It does have some turn, and it does have some fade. So I get a little bit of the, the S with it, but it's still primarily straight. It may leave the bag soon because I have the next disc in line, which has already become my favorite disc. It is also a warship. However, it is my warship. People that know me know that I, for quite a while, have been fascinated by a Buddhist story called, I think it's Trip to the West. And the main character is the Monkey King, Sun Wukong. So I had a disc made with the Monkey King on it. I took it out earlier this year and started throwing it, and it did not seem to matter if I threw it at 80% or if I threw it at 50%. It went straight. It just went straight. It had no turn whatsoever, and so little fade that I actually had to look at it to make sure that it was a warship. It goes perfectly straight, and so I just said, fine, you're in the bag, and when I need to throw straight, that's your job. So my sigil is now in the bag. I have 3 more mid ranges. Come on. 3 more mid ranges. I have a, turn it right, I have a Bard that I will throw backhand on occasion if I need something, if I need to throw something as a mid range at, reasonable amount of power, say 60, 70, 80%, and have it go left. I will use this guy. I will not throw this one forehand often because it will turn out of my hand if I throw it forehand. But there have been times when I have used this as an auxiliary disc, as a get out of trouble disc with my forehand if I need to throw something and have it S with a forehand. I will use this one. And then the last two discs, the last two mid-ranges that I have are both anvils. Let's turn them around here. The first one is just a regular old, I believe this would be a VIP plastic anvil with Lancaster Area Frisbee Sports, one of their old logos. This, if I ever throw it backhand, it's because I have no other option. But it will instantly go to the left if I throw it in a backhand. Even if I give it a huge amount of anhyzer, it'll come back immediately. However, if I throw this forehand, it'll hold an anhyzer for quite a while, and then it will come back and dump hard to the right. So I will use this one for forehands, or I will use this guy. Now this is my Nico, my Vampire Nico anvil. I got these back when Nico was throwing Westside, and they are stupid overstable. I mean, ridiculous. This is one of the discs that I call my 45 to 45 disc. If I throw it on an anhyzer, a forehand anhyzer at 45 degrees, it'll travel through the air straight and get to the other 45 and crash, which is extremely useful in the woods. This disc has gotten me out of more trouble in the woods than I care to even think about. It's an absolute gem. It's a requirement in my bag, and I believe this is the last one that I have. So hopefully they'll do a run at some point in the near future of this, whatever they changed with this anvil for Nico. I hope they make another run of these, because if I ever lose this one, I am out of luck. So anyway, that's my last mid. I have, at this point, and again, remember that I'm changing my bag, I have 7 fairway drivers up here. And just like the Warships, I have a tendency to gravitate towards one mold. And in this case, it used to be Stags. I used to throw primarily all Stags of various stabilities. I've replaced some of my more understable Stags with a couple of hatchets. And the reason is, I used to throw hatchets a lot, and I got to a point where they just seemed squirrely for me. I wasn't controlling them very well. One time I would throw a hatchet and it would turn and burn, and the next time I would throw it and it would go straight and then crash to the left, and it wasn't reliable. So I shelved them and I went to Stags, which seemed to be much more consistent for my mechanics. I had some older Stags that were pretty beat up, and they were understable, and they always seemed to fly the same way. And I had some newer Stags that were stable enough to handle torque, and I would throw them and they would go straight and fade at the end. My arm speed has come down a bit, and I discovered early this season, when I was out doing some practice stuff, that the hatchets were helping me with my understable game. So I pulled a couple of hatchets. I tested a bunch of the ones that I still had. I pulled a couple of them, put them in the bag. I have 2 right now in the bag. This one is my turn and burn hatchet. If I throw it flat, it will turn hard, just like my terses, my mid-range terses. If you know the Westside molds, this one is almost like an Underworld. It turns hard. It may pan out at the end of flight. It may not. It just depends on how high I throw it and how hard I throw it. But this one is almost always a turn and burn. So if I have something that just is going to turn to the right and keep turning to the right, this is what I'll reach for. I also have another hatchet. This is a sparkly hatchet. Get it in there. Hey, kind of hard to see the stamp on this one. And this one's a little more straight. It does turn, and it turns quite a bit, but it will straighten. It will straighten and pan out, or it will pan and come back a bit. I don't pull this one very often because if I'm looking for a fairway driver to go to the right, I'm usually going to throw forehand. But there are occasions when I do need to throw a backhand. I do need it to go to the right, and I'll pick this one up. I do still have 2 Stags in my bag. This one is another Chris Villa Jean disc. This is my straight flyer, my straight fairway flyer. I use it all the time in the woods. I have to give it power. I can't baby it. I have to give it power, but it will go straight, and it will predictably fade at the end. It's exactly what I expect. It's exactly what I need this disc to do. Go straight, crash to the left. End of story. I use this disc a lot. And a little bit more stable is an old Ice Bowl Stag, which is a funny glittery kind of stamp here. This bad boy is stable for a Stag. It's not stable in the grand scheme of things. I have much more stable discs, but for a Stag, this is pretty stable. If I throw it flat, it will pretty quickly start going to the left. But it does get me quite a bit of distance in the woods as a fairway. So this, combine this with my orange Stag, and I have pretty much all the backhand stuff that I need in the woods. I have 3 more fairways. These are primarily forehand discs. The first one is a Westside Long Bowman. There we go. And this one, what I will do with this one usually is throw it forehand with a little bit of Anheuser. Not a lot, but on the Anheuser side of flat release, and it'll hold that angle for 50 to 75% of its flight before it comes back straight and then dumps right. And it's extremely useful for shots in the woods that I want to go fairly straight and then dump at the end and dump to the right instead of the left. So this one comes out quite a bit. If I need more of a stability in the woods, crowding myself here, I will use a Westside Fortress. This is one that I've had for quite a while. I used to be a white. And this one, if I throw it with an Anheuser, it will start to come out of that angle pretty quickly, but still gives me quite a bit of distance before it decides to seek a target and hit the ground. So this combined with the Long Bowman gives me about 75% of what I need for forehand. And then the last disc is very, very similar to those anvils that I was talking about, and once again, it is another Nico Westside disc. It is an Ati, and I've had to replace these, and luckily there is a player a neighboring town that had a bunch of them, and realized that I liked them so much and sold me a couple of extra ones. Um, but these are another one of those discs that if I ever lose them all, I'm I'm toast. I need this disc. This is another 45 to 45. Throw it on a 45. Get the angle right. Throw it on a 45, and it immediately starts to corkscrew through the woods and crash. Um, but it has saved my bacon more often than I even want to think about. Finally, we have drivers. Now, these drivers are the drivers in my bag are going to disappear, at least for the first part of the season. But I figured I'd go through them anyway. Um, I have, let me see here. I have three that are primarily backhands. They're all kings. The first one is another BT king. It's pretty beat up, and it's almost unusable. One of these days, I'm gonna get smart, and I'm going to learn to throw backhand roller, and I'll throw this, and I won't have to torque it much, cause it wants to go there all by itself. Um, it's almost unusable as throw it in the air. But it's still in the bag because every once in a while I have needed in the past something that I can. I almost have to hyzer flip it extremely, like 45 to 45. You know, throw it 45 backhand on a hyzer, and it turns way over. Um, so, like I said, it's almost unusable, and it's probably going to disappear really quickly. Um, the second king is an old tilted sword king, an old sparkle king that if I throw it flat, it fades pretty, or it turns pretty hard and then fades back. Um, I do like this disc. It's gonna pain me a bit to take it out of the bag, even for a little while. But when I get almost as much distance with the stags as I do with the king, yeah, maybe I should start, getting used to the fact that I just don't need a 14 speed in my bag. And then the last king that I have is, bet you couldn't have guessed that. It's another Chris Villa Jean disc. It's a king, and it's straight. It's, crank it up to 75-80%. It flies straight. Um, Again, I don't get that much more distance with it than I get with my 9-speed stags. But again, you know I'm still getting used to the fact that these might not be necessary anymore. Um, I have the fourth in my bag. It's another Chris Villajon. This one is an Orbit sword, and I was playing with it end of the year last year. Just had it out in the field, was working with it to see what it would do, and I'm throwing it backhand, and it's just not going very far. It's not going nearly as far as my kings, and it's dumping. And I thought, let me throw this forehand to see what happens. And I threw it forehand, just tried to throw it flat, and I actually gave it a little bit of anhyzer. And holy crap, did it held that anhyzer for 75% of the flight, and then panned out. And I'm like, why didn't somebody tell me about this before? So I don't. This one will stay in the bag because I get my forehand distance isn't as great as my backhand distance. This gives me quite a bit of distance with my forehand. Probably won't throw it in the woods. Probably only throw it out in the open. But still, I was really surprised at how this disc flew. So this one will probably stay. I will probably keep one of the kings, probably the white Sparkle King, just because that gives me some turn. Um, but I can keep it straight. I will keep that Orbit Sword, and I will probably keep one of the next two. Um, this one is an Adder. I don't even know if I have that stamp right side up or upside down. I can't even tell. It's right side up. Anyway, this was an Adder. Um, it was very overstable. It's not anymore. So this is one of my primary forehand discs. The other primary forehand disc that I have is a Westside Prince, which went in the bag last year. They fly about the same. It's filthy on the back. They fly about the same. This one comes out of its anhyzer a little bit quicker than the Adder does, but they're essentially the same thing. Throw them on an anhyzer forehand, they hold for a bit, pan out a bit, and then fade, crash to the ground. So, they're interchangeable. I think I put this one in the bag as a backup for the Adder, and just never picked between the two. So, probably keep one of these in the bag, just depending. And then the last disc I have is I'm not sure why. It is another Adder, but it is a Nico Adder. So all three of the discs that I have that are just stupid, ridiculously overstable are Nico signature discs. The Anvil, the Ahti, and the Adder. Now this Adder is odd, I think, because if you look at the profile, it's not so easy to see on the camera, but the flight plate itself comes off the rim, goes flat, and then has a bubble. So it's like a bubble top. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting, it's almost easier to see when I put the camera glare on it. You can see that area right there above the SID in west side. You can see that it's almost concave off the rim, and then it bubbles up into the middle. And like the other two Nico discs that I have in the bag, it's just stupid overstable. Another 45 to 45, and again, I use all three of those discs for the exact same reason. I'm in trouble. I got myself in a bind, and I need to recover, and those three discs are my recovery discs. So that's my in the bag. That's what I have for the bag. The only other thing that I do have that is part of my cart setup, and this is I don't know if I'll be able to pull this into the I can get that in there. This is my cart setup, and you can see I have the phone holder, and then this guy is for my camera rig. And I finally, after a couple of weeks of waiting, I finally got my camera rig ready for tournament season. I was waiting for two things. I was waiting for the wireless microphone, which I do have finally. And of course I have it now, and we're going to have the snowpocalypse tomorrow, and I'm not going to be able to go do a playthrough or a practice round or anything where you can actually hear me on the camera or on the video. But I do have my camera rig finally. It's ready to go. I have my my adjustable ball set up here so that if my cart is sitting on an angle, camera can actually be flat, and it will attach here, and it's what I'm going to use to video my rounds, and hopefully tournament rounds as well. one of the things that this camera rig allows me to do is hook up a power source, so I won't be reliant on the GoPro batteries. I did finally get some winterized batteries, which will last a little longer in the cold weather. But with this rig now, I don't even need that. I can set myself up with a long-term battery, put it in the cart, hook it up to the camera, and I can just have the camera run until for an entire round. I don't have to turn it on, turn it off, have it beeping in the middle of the round. Um, it'll just be on, um, and that'll be nice. Then I can bring the whole video back home, and I can post produce and I can cut out all of the pieces of the video where you see where I grab the cart and I go, and all you can see is the ground going past, or you see the sky going past. And I'll be able to piece it together and make an actually reasonably understandable and hopefully entertaining video without all of the intermediate or intermingled stuff. So anyway, that's my setup for the year. Um, there's going to be some changes. There's going to be changes in the discs that I carry. There's going to be changes with the cart. I'm going back to using a cart full time, and the cart itself. I used to have a cart that was custom built. Um, I basically took a Zuka cart, put sides on it, a bottom on it. Um, I had a battery pack in the bottom. I had LEDs. I had a speaker in it. I had it was just I tricked it out, and then um, I got away from that a bit and started carrying a bag mostly. Um, but because of the camera and because yeah, not quite 65 yet, but yeah, I'm getting close. I'm gonna stop, you know, beating up my back carrying a bag, and I'm gonna go back to pulling a cart. Um, and we'll see. I'm sure that it's going to make other muscles tired. My back is going to be thankful, but my legs and other parts of my back are going to be annoyed. But it is what it is. Um, so there are some changes coming to my setup, but that is basically where I'm starting the year. So um, everyone stay safe and survive the snowpocalypse. And until I see you out on the course, go crash some chains, but not in the snow. Okay?